On your podcast, you've recently spoken a bit about Gypsy Rose Blanchard.
Why do I know her?
I know way too much.
So we talked a little bit, I think it was yesterday, just covering the fact that she was released from prison after serving time for conspiring to have her mother killed for her entire life, really, convincing her and the public that she was ill when, in fact, she wasn't.
I do like saying Munchausen syndrome. That's fun.
Yeah.
Munchausen by proxy.
Yes.
So there's now a bunch of things that are coming out, lots of stuff to cover. Here's one of the headlines. She tried to experiment with her sexuality in prison.
I can go deeper.
Ooh, you can go deeper. So can
go
she.
deeper.
Go ahead.
Because I'm press, I did receive a copy of her book where she discusses this about a week early.
Love it.
So I read it. Yes. Of course. And she actually refers to herself, guys, as a pillow princess.
Yes. Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, that's what the journalist who's interviewing, and by the way, the journalist that interviews her and they transcribe all of their conversations in prison, her name is Melissa Moore, and her dad just happens to be the happy face killer who killed 8 women that we know of, claims he killed 150, and then wrote happy faces on notes to the media. But anyway,
why aren't they doing a movie on her?
I think there are many on her and that whole thing. But she's
interviewing people in jail. Wow.
yeah, no, and that's one of the reasons Gypsy's like, oh yeah, I'll talk to you. You obviously can sort of understand what I'm going through, even though you're not a murderer. But anyway, so she's telling her, and she's like, I've experimented a few times. I'm what you call I've been a pillow princess 4 times. And Melissa's like, what's that? And she's like, you can figure it out, which means I'm assuming that she just lays there while someone goes down on her. I think,
They say it in the article. They did. I believe me, I highlighted it.
Okay, great.
Oh, did they say the pillow princess part in that article?
Well, they define it.
Okay.
And I love the journalist trying to define it in as demure way possible.
Yeah, I know.
The term generally refers to women who receive oral stimulation from other women, but generally do not reciprocate.
Selfish.
It is important to note that Gypsy Rose, which, by the way, if anyone has seen the musical Gypsy, it's like Mama Rose, and it kind of actually makes a whole lot of sense, the dynamic between her mother and her. Anyways,
Oh, really?
Joe, I totally agree.
It's so strange.
It is strange.
I didn't know she was named after a musical.
But was she? I don't know.
I don't think her mom would have, in the Deep South like that, knew Gypsy.
Was really, well versed in musical theater history.
Streisand and
But Gypsy Rose is now married to her husband, Ryan Anderson, and clearly has been very happy with their sex life together so far, because I believe she was interviewed and asked about it.
Well,
how sex was.
It actually stemmed from Instagram comments. I posted these comments last week, and I came across this organically because, again, I get all of their posts, and my dad is like, how come every time I see you on Instagram, you're liking Gypsy Rose? But can you get over this? And I'm like, well, I don't, because people can see what you like and stuff, whatever. So I came across this, and she said something like, I don't care about the haters, I just love you, and what matters is us, and that D is fire. And then he wrote back, come and get it, baby. And then that was brought up during interviews for the Lifetime doc that aired. Like, people on the red carpet were like, what do you say to this, this, and this? And she's like, the D is fire. And I think this is where people started to scratch their head and say, well, wait a second, why are we treating you like some influencer celebrity when really, we feel horrible for you, what you went through, but you had a part in murdering someone, and that someone is your mother. Yeah. And side note, the guy that you gave the knife to, Nick Godejohn, her ex-boyfriend, he obviously did it. He has mental health issues, and he actually had a criminal record. But all you got to do is hear him talk. He's got some issues, okay? Like, he's not like us. I don't want to say like us. We're all fucking weird, whatever. But he's got some issues. Yeah. And I'm imagining him sitting in prison. He's got life without parole, and she's out there like, the D is fire. And I'm like, this is so awkward. It's a very dangerous slope that we are.
That's a really good point. Yeah. And
it really speaks to, though, the sort of climate of our culture right now, our fascination with true crime, how there's really blurred lines between celebrity and murder. I don't know. It's
You're
like
right.
Can I edit that a little bit? Women's fascination with true crime.
Well, yeah,
All right, it's women's fascination.
Oh,
with
you're
true crime.
absolutely right.
I've never seen anything like it. It seems to get worse every year.
it's preparation.
And listen, people don't like. Again, I know way too much about Gypsy Rose and her situation, but people
I
also.
know who she is now.
Oh no, trust me. That's what my husband's like. Can you stop watching these and stop reading this? And I'm like, no, I can't. I have an interview with her cousin on Thursday, and that's the last of it because he's the one cousin that stuck by her. I don't know if you saw the docs, but he's like the kind of hot one with the tattoos and like, yeah, but whatever. But when you hear what Gypsy went through, and again, none of us had been in her shoes. Maybe she felt like murder was the only way. I don't think that I could go through with that, me personally. I mean, even like example, you know how everyone's like, what's with her teeth? She's got like the weirdest, worst teeth. Well, her mom used to put Orajel in her mouth and tell the doctors, like, so she would get numb, and they'd say, oh, her mom would say she has a drooling problem. So her doctors, she convinced them to remove Gypsy's salivary glands. So so then in turn, all of her teeth started to
should not be.
Yeah, they started to decay, and then they eventually fell out, or they had to be extracted because they were rotting. And so now she said at one point in prison she only had 16 teeth, and I think we have what?
No wonder
How
she
many
was
do
a
we have? Like,
princess.
I mean, it's just it's crazy. So and that's just one example. That's one example. Think of her feeding tube. She had like a hole dug through her body for it's
God.
that's
I hate this world.
yeah.
So now, how did the two of them meet? Do you know?
Yeah, so she actually said she had been there was over 250 guys that wrote her in prison. I mean,
Wait, this is the episode or the series of The Bachelorette that I want to see.
I love her drugstore press-ons there. Those were my favorite. Because it was the day she got out. I think she posted that. But no, so she had, oh my gosh, a lot of guys that wanted to talk to her. And I guess it was during quarantine, this guy, Ryan, and his friend watched Mommy Dead and Dearest on HBO. And, you know, his friend's like, I dare you to write to her, see what happens. And so he did. And she had just broken up with her previous fiance, who also wrote her after watching Mommy Dead and Dearest. Yeah. And so he came to visit her, and then she said one thing led to another, and they fell in love. And I get horrible vibes from him. You know, he seems to really be enjoying the limelight with her, taking selfies. He bought himself a little blue check mark, or I'm assuming he bought it for himself. But he just... And if you watch some of these interviews, the way he kind of jumps in, he does appear to be a little controlling in what he wants to say. So I hope girlfriend has like some kind of radar here with another abuser, but
I just hope she's also, this is so like kind of me, which is unusual, but I hope she's getting therapy. Like, I hope that she does have, because that's a whole lot of childhood trauma. And like, unless you are actively getting help, you're going to be reliving all of that childhood trauma again and again, right? So it's like, 100%. Is it the men that she's then connecting with? Is there something about them that's like her mother, the controlling, the whatever? Like, you don't want to keep reliving that.
100%. And she talks about this, and she makes a point to say certain things that I believe are on purpose, because I'm sure the public is like, all you knew your entire life is this wacko mother who was a criminal. The mom, you know, went to jail for shoplifting. The mom, Dee Blanchard, she killed her stepmom. I mean, it's very, these things are very known. Yeah. So Gypsy's like, well, I did tell this one really bad lie to my stepmom when I was in prison, and then I came clean right away because I did not want to be like my mother. So she's addressing it, but you're like, are you just kind of saying this for your parole or because but again, it's been 8 years. She's only known her prison with her mom, and then Chillicothe, wherever she was, this prison, that's all she's known. So
that's gonna fuck you up. You go from psycho mom to killing psycho mom to prison. That is all you know, and now you're on red carpets. That's a maelstrom.
She said that prison, the actual prison, she felt freer than she ever had before because she was able to forge her own relationships. She was able to talk to people without her mom. Like, yeah. And there's certain things that she says in the book that is not found in any docs that I was just like, these are the strangest people. Like, she said that like their day to day, if they didn't have a doctor's appointment or if they didn't have just like an errand to run, they would wake up at 11 a.m. Her mom would eat like a tube full of Pillsbury biscuits herself. Like her mom wasn't small, but she would pop it in and eat, a tube full. And they'd watch The Bold and the Beautiful. Then they'd have lunch, watch another movie.
Sounds delightful.
No, I mean, no, but then she's, this is really random because she was very specific on what her mom and her ate for dinner. She claims they ate rice with sweet peas over it because her mom hated meat. And then after they'd eat, they would take a bath together. And this is the other thing. She made Gypsy shower with her and sleep with her. And at one point, Gypsy says, I know this makes me feel weird, but she said that her mom insisted on shaving her vagina for her because, and Gypsy didn't think anything was wrong with that. And at this point, I think Gypsy's age that she thought she was 15, but in actuality, she was 19.
Her mother would lie about her age and say she was younger, that she was still a minor.
And that's why she was shaving her? Bring that point home?
Part of it was she goes into this, and Gypsy basically says her mom wanted her to be quote unquote clean, and Gypsy at so many points in her life wanted to be clean herself because she felt so dirty that she got baptized 7 times. She knew at one point the lies that she was telling. She knew she could walk. She didn't feel right about keeping this. She knew something was kind of, you know what I mean? So I'm sorry, your listeners did not ask for this. They're what's going on?
One of them is happy.
You ain't boring. You are not boring.
One listener's happy. Thank you. Yeah, I know.
That is Jesus Christ.
It's a lot.
I have never heard of.
I like to imagine that one of our viewers Google searched Gypsy Rose and was like, why did Bernadette Peters come up?
Yeah, right. I know. It's true.
Like all of it, they're actually getting the history of the Broadway musical. So now they're like, oh, this makes more sense. Thank you, Lauren, for telling us all about this.
You're so welcome, everybody.